Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I've been really disappointed during this Mississauga mayoralty campaign that the downtown Toronto media and, frankly, some of the residents groups in and around Mississauga haven't given enough opportunity to some of the candidates that have put their name forward and are working hard to earn your vote time to explain who they are and what their big policies are. And one of the individuals that has impressed me during this campaign season is Dr. Jamie Dookie. And so I thought I'd give him a chance to tell you a little bit about himself and some of his ideas. Jamie, Dr. Dookie, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate inviting me to the show.
So you've been involved in politics in Mississauga for quite a while. Tell me a little bit about your background and why you decided to run for mayor this time.
Well, I've been involved in politics. I ran federally in 2000, and I've run municipally 5 times. I have not been successful so far. And, getting into the mayoral race, I believe that we need some change at City Hall. The way that I've looked at things, I've been living in Mississauga for 35 years, and I've been involved in the politics in the city for that period of time, working as a volunteer during the period of time, and also getting engaged in the political process, both federally, provincially, and municipally. As I've looked back over the years, Mississauga, I think, is going in the wrong direction. I think that there is the process by which things get done at City Hall seems to concern me quite a bit. There's too much of, I guess I would say, cronyism that takes place. And I find that there's a lot of wastage of money that impacts the taxpayers' base. And I've gotten involved because I believe I have a plan and a platform to deliver a value for money, deliver results, and actually get things done. Because as you know, in the municipality, it's a bureaucracy, and a lot of things get shoved behind based on negotiation because we're part of the region of Peel, and we're always negotiating to get more. And if we look at in the last 4 to 5, maybe 6 years or so, we see that a couple of the other cities are getting more than Mississauga, despite the fact that we're all sitting as part of the region of Peel. We also know that our councillors are not only municipal councillors, but they work as regional councillors, and basically they have they double vote in these areas. They vote as a city councillor for your city portion increases or changes to your city taxes, and then they sit around this other side of the table and they also vote on the regional portion of your taxes. So they, when they can do things to help improve, I don't think they have done it sufficiently. And I believe with my background being, more than 30 years in corporate politics, corporate operations, working in the corporate sector, both in the private and public, also a senior management, and with a very strong academic background in operational efficiencies, I believe that I have the skills, the expertise, and the experience to be able to go into City Hall and deliver the changes that is necessary to bring relief to the taxpaying residents of Mississauga.
One of the issues that have come up is what our tax increases have been. And as I think you know, they've been representing them as a modest 2.3% tax increase, but some have done calculations to say that it actually is 6.3%. And the reason why is that they're taking the Mississauga tax increase and dividing it by both the Mississauga taxes and the Peel taxes and saying it's only 2.3%, when if you took Mississauga tax increase divided by Mississauga taxes, it would be 6.3%. Do you think that that's misrepresenting what the tax increase is when they say it's only a modest 2.3%, or are they being fair?
Yes, they are misleading the residents of Mississauga to believe that your taxes are, below 3%. And we listened to a couple of the incumbents say that they're going to freeze your taxes. Well, which one of the taxes are they talking about freezing? Is it the municipal portion or is it the regional portion? And the big point is that, yes, it is true that our total tax package is just below 7%. And I think that probably in the next year or two, we will see it climb to close to about 8 to 9%, because, our councillors don't really have a good focus as to the financial impact on the taxpaying base, because I think the taxpayers here in Mississauga seems to accept because they have to pay. They want to keep their property, and they choose to pay because they're not paying much attention and digging deep or looking at how these taxes are totally accumulated, and it's all compiled over the last number of years. And yes, I have lived in Mississauga, as I told you, for 25 years and seen property taxes almost 250% of what it was in the early 1990s. I believe that we have lost our focus on what is necessary and important in making sure that the property owners have lower taxes or have taxes that are manageable instead of having to choose between paying their taxes for their houses or their properties and putting food on their table. And we see, most recently we were at the food bank and we listened to the number of people in Mississauga that
58,000 people a year.
yeah,
8% of Mississauga's population are using the food bank.
and when we
It's
look at it,
unbelievable.
yeah, and we see that, that concerns me quite a bit. I mean, in the city, and I think there are things that could be done. I mean, as you and I have, briefly chatted recently, is that there are many options for finding savings, finding efficiencies, cutting the waste of money. We look at the consultants that the city hires, the amount of money that's paid for consultants, and we hire people that are professionals that is supposed to get the jobs done, and then we see that they hire consultants to do the job for them, and I think that's a lot of waste of money. So, getting there and digging deep and finding the ways we can bring efficiencies to the city, I think we can help, and we can, see reversal of a lot of the tax increases. So yes, it is true that taxpayers are not getting the full picture of the total amount of taxes that they're paying on their property.
I used to work for Jim Pattison, 9 billion billionaire, fascinating guy. And one of his lines was being able to explain a problem well is halfway to getting it solved. And I really think that if you are misrepresenting the tax increases as a modest 2.3% when it's actually going up by 6.3%, and the region saying it's 4.5% when it's actually 8.4%, you're not understanding the situation. And when you keep saying the adjective modest, you're fooling yourself as well as misrepresenting it to people. And so if you don't understand the problem, you're never going to be able to solve it.
That is true, because again, taxpayers really don't have, the property owners here don't have really a good understanding, or maybe are not clear as to how their taxes are made up. And we know the region of appeal portion takes a lot because we have a lot more services that is being provided by the region of Peel. We have water, we have waste management, we have the Peel regional police services, we have the Peel paramedics. All those come out of the tax-paying base, and that's why those taxes are quite high from the region of Peel. And then when we look at it, we see that we have a region of Peel chair that is not really appointed by a voting population. These are persons that are appointed by the members of councils from the different areas, and these are people that are paid highly. I think eliminating those positions will also bring a lot of savings. And one of my focus over a number of years is looking at amalgamation of the complete 3 municipalities into one region, which I from my calculation would save close to about $43 million over each term. When you would go from 3 fire services down to 1 with 1 chief. You would go from 3 bus services down to 1. You would have 1 CEO. You would go from the 3 municipalities with 3 mayors and 1 regional chair down to 1 mayor and 1 chair. And then when you look at removal or reduction of a lot of the administrative bases that support these areas, when you bring them into total, there's tremendous amount of savings that could impact property taxes and bringing it down or reversing it to the late 1980s. And it's achievable. It's not like it's not achievable, because our councillors sit and they earn 2 salaries for doing the one job that they're doing. So I think if we
Jamie, I think you raise a really good issue that should be discussed. You think about the United Way. It's merged with Toronto. You think about the hospitals. 3 hospitals have merged to operate together. You think about business. Business would think about efficiency and merge if that made sense. Back in 1996, there was a GTA task force that suggested amalgamation of Toronto, which was implemented, and amalgamation of Mississauga and Brampton and Caledon into a city of Peel, which was never done. About 40, 50 years ago, there were 800 cities in Ontario. Today, there's 400. So there's been numerous different amalgamations: Ottawa, Hamilton, Sarnia, etc. Why is it that we've had such this focus? And I got to tell you, it was interesting. I spoke with a very senior politician who met with the 9 newbies that were elected to councils in Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon in the last election. And this gentleman said that he asked them what he was hearing at the door. And he was hearing tax increases, and he was hearing housing affordability issues, and he was hearing crime issues. Even then, 2 years ago, he said, didn't anyone hear anything about the separation of Mississauga and Brampton from Peel? And he said, of the 9 new councillors, not one of them said they ever heard people asking about the separation of Mississauga and Brampton from Peel. I really think this was a complete distraction that no one was asking for. People just want to know whether they're getting their water and it's clean, and whether the water is taking the waste away, and if they're getting their garbage picked up. They don't care whether it's Mississauga, Brampton, or Peel that's picking up their water, picking up their garbage and delivering their water. They just want to know it's at a good price, and it's efficient, and it's clean. So I think it's a really good issue that you raised, sir.
I've been, looking at this for the last almost 15 to 20 years, since I've been living in Mississauga. And as an efficiency expert, I look at finding ways and means of reducing waste, finding efficiencies through the system. I've worked in the public sector, in the healthcare sector. And, I've worked with a couple of hospitals. And at one of the hospitals that I worked at, I brought in a system that went to an almost zero inventory stock level, which meant that pharmaceuticals supplies were coming straight into the door and going straight to the wards, going to the floors where it's needed. Yes, we need to carry stock, but basically what we need to do is, if you find efficiency in the system and you manage it, especially in these areas where you deal with strategic realignment of services and supplies, you would be able to find those efficiencies and savings if you have proper resources or proper administrative staff that is managing and monitoring. Amalgamation, yes, it means that we're going to go to one service organization and removing a lot of the bureaucracy and the barriers that hinder us from delivering the service with efficiencies and reducing costs through the system.
On Thursday, I suggested that we had some inefficiencies, red tape, and regulation in Mississauga, and that the time for approval was inappropriately slow and took too long. And one of the councillors turned to me and said that was bunk. What do you think? Is it bunk, or do we have red tape and regulation and our approvals too slow?
We do have red tapes and approvals, as we see, for approvals and process elimination in the area. I mean, we look at what we listen to, the amount of houses they say that is approved for building, and it's just not getting happening. Well, if we empower the staff to make the decision, we would find that a lot of things would move on very quickly. And, things would get done rather than sitting around and pointing fingers or, going around the table discussing. We have not found the ways of delivering the services and I guess the governance that is necessary to the residents and the property owners of Mississauga. We see a lot of, we look at the councillors, and if we look at their background, they tell you about, they've been in the private sector, in the public sector, they've been at this level. But when we look at their actual performance as a councillor, that they sit around, and they tiptoe around the tulips, as I use, to get things done, I think it's a waste of their time and a waste of the resources that is available to them to actually deliver the services. And, they continue to go back into office with the same old explanation, and nothing changes. When we look at, their performance, we look at their wards that they represent in the areas of Mississauga, and we see things that doesn't get done. We look at simply they have one councillor that is actually running for mayor that talks about their time as, a provincial minister. And then we look at the issues down on the lakeshore with the power plant. And, that individual was a minister in the government that bungled that stuff. And then we look at, we look at the shelter for the refugees, asylum seekers, which is also in a ward that individual is the counselor for. And we see there's a lot of issues with these things in the city. I think that, there's a blind eye, or there's inefficient or lack of competence in some of these areas with some of these individuals that are incumbents and some that is also running for mayor in the city. We need somebody that is strong, that has the experience from the corporate sector and has been involved in the politics of this country and in this municipality to step in, to be able to make the change and make the difference. Because we, from the outside, like you and I, we sit on the outside. We have been in certain areas where we work with efficiency, we work with organization to bring services awareness and to bring recognition to what is necessary and what is important to getting things done and achieving results. And I think, we have some good people sitting on the sidelines that have the platform and the solution to deliver what is needed in this time in Mississauga. The change needs to happen for things to get done. Otherwise, we're going to keep going through the same old, as you and I have always said, is that, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and
expecting a different result. I can't agree with you more. And it seems like that's the way that Mississauga is headed, which is a real shame, because I think that we've got some real problems and crises. We've got a tax issue that taxes have been going up at 7 or 8%, and people have been misrepresented as modest 2.3%. And you know as well as I that if taxes continue to go up for 10 years at 7, 8%, means your taxes will double in 10 years. I think we've got a housing affordability crisis that they're sticking their heads in the sand saying it's not their fault, when every study says that the time period to get approvals, the development fees, the inappropriate zoning, et cetera, is the major reason, other than interest rates, in regards to the lack of housing. And the cities worldwide that have improved the approval time period, reduced the risk, and reduced development fees have gotten response. Developers will come and want to try to make money and build homes. And I think that we just don't have the big ideas anymore that get people excited about making Mississauga, a wonderful, ambitious, a city aspiring for greatness. I just don't know what we've done of excitement lately in Mississauga. It was Hazel McCallion, the former mayor, who built the Living Arts Center, who built the Celebration Square, who built City Hall, who built the Hershey Center. What have we done lately?
Yeah, well, when we look, we look at our neighboring city, which is Brampton. They've gotten quite a bit of new development, and basically that comes, negotiation through, sitting with the region of Peel, and they have gotten more than we have. All we have had in Mississauga so far over the last couple of years, we look at a couple of new, or even only one community center that's been on the 10th line area, in the ninth line area. Then we have the upgrade of the Meadowvale town center. We had the Credit Valley community center, but that's about the most that we have seen actually in the last 5 to 10 years within Mississauga. I guess our council has lost its way in terms of where the real focus is. Delivering services, delivering their affordability for housing. I've had a project that I've been working on that we've presented before with the CMHC, which is based on modular housing and using recyclable material that I have in my possession as proof, for creating and building new affordable housing. The cost of actually putting up these housing, putting a unit, which is a 5-room unit with 2 bedrooms, the actual cost is around $260,000. I mean, affordability, and we look at it as, yes, they keep pointing finger to every other areas rather than taking responsibility and saying, what, we have seen this coming. This hasn't happened in the last 2 years. This has been happening for the last 7, 8, 10 years, because, in the late 1990s, we see where property prices started rising. I mean, we didn't expect it to reach where it is today, but it's gone where it is because of opportunism in the market, the lack of supply, the increased demand for housing. And we need to make sure that, we get a handle of this. I also was proposing, making sure they mandate the rental registration of rental units in Mississauga, so that they can keep a track of the availability, the stock availability of the homes, or the location that has rental units that is available, and bringing in rent control so that it doesn't skyrocket to any and everywhere. I mean, in the commercial sector, we have cost per square foot in terms of resident commercial units. Why can't we find a way of doing that within Mississauga for rent control within the city, and then actually, bringing in a policy to control the actual occupancy in these rental units? I mean, these are things that we need to do to make sure
I
that
don't think
we,
there's much of a attention to efficiency, to effectiveness,
yeah,
to new ideas. It really is same old, I fear. And I think that, one of the other issues, and I'm not sure if you feel about this way, but, one of the candidates, was provincial and then lost and then ran municipally and then didn't resign municipally, but ran provincially again and lost and came back municipally and now is running for mayor, but didn't resign the council spot. So it's almost like, all I'm trying to do is get a better job. And if I don't get a better job, then I'll stay as a city councillor,
yeah,
such that, it's like the city council is the backstop all the time. And, another candidate ran for provincial nomination, ran for leader of the Liberal Party, came in second last, and lost, and ran in Oakville, lost, and now won as councillor, but again is not resigning when running for mayor. It's sort of like I'm desperate for anything I can get, but I've always got the council job as a backstop. I really wonder if that shows the dedication to being on council. It's almost like I'll take the council job unless I get something better.
And so true, that it seemed, in my terminology, I would, use a word that is called greed, which is, wanting to hold on to everything that you can keep a grasp of, and then taking for granted that, you are the only person that is supposed to be, to have and enjoy these things. And I think that's unfair. That's, you see some councillors that are endorsing other councillors from mayor and all this stuff. And I think that's discrimination in my view, because you have other people that are there and you're endorsing your peers, which I think it should be left open and
Should
left.
let the people decide. One councillor said it was only between them and Carolyn Parrish. They were the only people that could possibly be mayor. Says effectively all the other people are irrelevant. Another person yesterday said it was a 3-horse race, as if, 17 of the rest of us. All the statistics say that 75% of the people make up their mind in the last 10 days.
Yeah.
You know what? I think democracy is done a disservice when these people try to exclude and use the advantage of their current council positions for all the attention, for all the media, for all the money, to get ahead. The fact that they actually put up signs against the sign agreement that they actually signed and said, well, because it's a paid billboard, it's not an election sign, it doesn't count. I just think that's wrong. Number one, I don't think they're right that it's legally not an election sign. It's still an election sign. And number two, I think it's wrong. The whole idea of having a date for the signs was to make things more equal. They're doing everything they can to make it unequal, that they get the benefits. Anyway, Dr. Jamie Dookie, do you have a website that people can go to check you out?
Yes, it's www.dookieformayor.com, and my phone number is 416-454-0726. Any questions, any inquiries, any updates, any information that need on my background, definitely www.dookieformayor.com and 416-454-0726. You can find me anytime. I answer my phone. I respond to email very efficiently and quickly, as fast as I can.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back with another candidate for mayor that I also think you should pay some attention to. Please stay with us. Back in 2.